What if I told you that during World War II, Nazi Germany built weapons so strange that Allied soldiers who captured them thought they were jokes? A gun that shoots around corners, a cannon that fires nothing but air, a 200-foot wooden airplane that dropped a tank through its own floor, and a disposable manned rocket, made of wood, launched vertically, that killed its pilot before he ever reached the enemy. Every single one was real, every single one was physically built, and every single one was actually tested. Before we reach a weapon so insane it was funded by Heinrich Himmler's personal SS budget, rejected by the German Air Ministry, and killed the first man who ever took off vertically under rocket power, we start with a rifle that tried to break the laws of physics. Number 7. The Krummlauf 1943. Eastern Front. German tank crews have a problem. Soviet infantry are climbing onto their vehicles, and the crew inside can't aim at them. Someone at Rheinmetall Borsig proposes a solution that sounds like it belongs in a cartoon. Bend the barrel. The Krummlauf was a steel extension clamped onto the Sturmgewehr 44, the world's first true assault rifle. A 30-degree bend for infantry, to shoot around corners. A 90-degree bend for tanks, mounted through the roof hatch so crews could fire straight down at attackers. A periscope sighting device let the shooter aim without exposing their head. But physics fought back. The 30-degree version lasted roughly 300 rounds before cracking. The 45-degree, about 160. Bullets often shattered inside the curve, exiting as fragments, an unintentional shotgun effect. When American ordnance officers captured them, most believed they were a joke. A U.S. Army report dated July 18, 1945, confirmed all bullets were seriously distorted, yet concluded the concept was, quote, worthy of extensive research and development. Around 500 tank-mounted 90-degree versions were delivered. The Krummlauf failed as a practical weapon. But today, Israel's corner shot system does exactly what it attempted. The Germans just tried 70 years too early, but the Krummlauf only bent bullets. The next weapon tried to weaponize something you cannot even see. Number 6. The Windkanone late in the war. Hitler's engineers began exploring ideas that would normally have been dismissed on sight. The Windkanone, the wind cannon, a cannon that fires air. Developed by Austrian inventor Mario Zippermeyer, a large angled barrel roughly 35 feet long, 3 feet in diameter. It worked by igniting hydrogen and oxygen. The explosion created a slug of compressed air and water vapor, fired like a shell. A prototype was tested at the Hillersleben Proving Ground. A 25mm wooden board was broken at 200 meters. A 100mm board shattered at 180 meters. They added nitrogen dioxide to the mixture so they could photograph the trajectory of the invisible blast. But a wooden board does not move. An airplane does. The compressed air slug would dissipate long before reaching anything in the sky. Despite this, a wind cannon was installed on a bridge over the River Elbe in 1945. It achieved nothing. A cannon that fired wind. Built, tested, deployed, and completely useless. But while one German team tried to weaponize air, another was building an aircraft out of wood that was supposed to carry a tank across the English Channel. Number 5. The Junkers Ju-322 Mammut late 1940. Hitler is planning Operation Sea Lion, the invasion of Britain. Junkers receives a contract for massive transport gliders. Their answer, the Mammut, a giant flying wing, all wooden, designed to carry 20,000 kilograms, a Panzer IV tank, an 88mm gun, or a half-track with crew. 2 prototypes were completed, 98 more under construction. Then testing began. Engineers tried loading a tank. It crashed straight through the wooden floor. The redesign cut payload from 20,000 down to 11,000 kilograms. It could no longer carry what it was designed for. First flight, April 1941. Towed by a Junkers Ju-90. The takeoff trolley nearly bounced back into the glider. The Mammut suffered severe spiral instability, nearly forcing the tow plane into the ground. Once released, it landed smoothly, in a field, miles from the airfield. It took 2 weeks to tow it back, using tanks. May 1941, entire project canceled. Both prototypes and all 98 partial airframes chopped up for firewood. One of the largest gliders ever designed, reduced to fuel for stoves. But if the Mammut was too big and too fragile, the next weapon had the opposite problem. It was small, fast, and killed its own pilots more often than the enemy. Number 4. The Messerschmitt Me-163 Komet, the only rocket-powered fighter to ever enter operational combat service, and as dangerous to its own pilots as to the enemy. The Walter rocket engine burned through its entire fuel supply in 7 minutes. After that, a glider. But those 7 minutes were extraordinary. On October 2nd, 1941, test pilot Heini Dittmar hit 1,004.5 kilometers per hour, a world record not broken for 6 years, until Chuck Yeager's Bell X-1 in 1947. The fuel made it a death trap. T-Stoff, 80% hydrogen peroxide. C-Stoff, hydrazine hydrate, methyl alcohol, and water. If the 2 chemicals met outside the combustion chamber, they exploded. If they touched skin, they dissolved it. By war's end, nearly 400 Komets were built, credited with 9 to 18 kills, against 10 combat losses and 9 accidents. The strangest part, the Komet was so fast that pilots couldn't aim during a pass. So engineers fitted the Jagdfaust, 10 vertically mounted tubes in the wing roots, aimed straight up. When the Komet flew beneath a bomber, a photocell detected the dark silhouette and automatically fired into the bomber's belly. No aiming, the Shadow pulled the trigger. On April 10, 1945, Fritz Kelb used it to down an RAF Lancaster, the weapon's only confirmed use. But the next aircraft looked even more impossible, because it looked like it was built in 2024, not 1944. Number 3, the Horten Ho 229 inches 1943. Goring issued a challenge. Build a bomber, 1,000 kilograms of bombs, 1,000 kilometers range, 1,000 kilometers per hour. Two brothers, Raymar and Walter Horten, had a different idea. A flying wing, no fuselage, no tail, dramatically reduced drag. The glider prototype flew March 1, 1944. The jet-powered second prototype flew February 2, 1945 at Oranienburg. Pilot, Lieutenant Erwin Ziller. He reported excellent handling. Third flight, February 18, 1945, one engine failed. Crash. Ziller killed. What made it extraordinary was its shape. It looks like a modern stealth bomber. Raymar Horten later claimed charcoal and sawdust in the plywood skin was intended to absorb radar waves. Historians debate this, but in 2008, Northrop Grumman built a full-scale replica and tested it. The flying wing showed a radar cross-section roughly 40% smaller than a Bf-109. Whether intentional or accidental, it was harder to detect on radar than anything else flying in 1945. Patton's Third Army captured prototypes at the Gotha wagon fabric factory. The V3 was shipped to the United States. Today, it sits unrestored at the Smithsonian. But the next weapon does not belong in any future. It was too big, too heavy, too slow, and it was built by Porsche. Number 2, the Panzer VIII Mouse. They called it the Mouse. The Mouse. It weighed 180 metric tons. The heaviest fully enclosed armored vehicle ever built. Designed by Ferdinand Porsche's team. Armed with a 128mm main gun and a 75mm secondary cannon. 5 ordered, 2 prototypes completed. At 180 tons, it couldn't cross any bridge in Europe. Solution, drive through rivers. A snorkel system allowed it to operate submerged in up to 8 meters of water. Maximum speed, 13 kilometers per hour. On the road, no enemy fire. An infantryman on foot sustained 6. It couldn't be transported by rail without modifications. Couldn't be recovered if it broke down, nothing could tow it. By early 1945, both prototypes were captured by Soviet forces. They took the turret from one, mounted it on the hull of the other, a Frankenstein mouse. It sits today in the Kubinka Tank Museum outside Moscow. But our number 1 is not the largest weapon on this list. It is the most desperate, a weapon so radical that the German Air Ministry rejected it. So Erich Bachem went directly to Heinrich Himmler, and the SS paid for it. It was designed to be built by unskilled workers, made mostly of wood, launched vertically from a 24-meter tower, and the pilot was expected to ride it once, fire everything, and then abandon the aircraft in midair. It was, in every meaningful sense, a manned surface-to-air missile, and the first man who flew it never came home. Number 1, the Bachem Ba 349 Natter March 1, 1945. 22-year-old Lothar Sieber climbs into a small wooden aircraft mounted vertically on a launch tower. The evening before, he wrote his will. The SS offered him a commission, Oberleutnant, for one test flight. He said yes. The 4 Schmitting boosters ignite. The Walter rocket roars. The Natter accelerates off the rail. First 100 meters, perfect. At 150 meters, violent pitch into an inverted curve. At 500 meters, the cockpit canopy flies off. The Natter continues climbing, disappears into the clouds. The engine cuts out. It reaches 1,500 meters, then noses over and drives straight into the ground. Lothar Sieber was almost certainly dead before impact. The canopy latch was bent. It may not have been secured. At 3 Gs, it could have struck him in the head. He was 22, buried with military honors 2 days later. He had just become the first human to take off vertically under rocket power, 16 years before Yuri Gagarin. The concept, launch vertically, climb to bomber altitude in under a minute. Autopilot handles most of the flight. Pilot takes over at the last moment, fires all 24 unguided rockets in one salvo, then pulls a lever. Aircraft breaks apart. Rear section descends under parachute for reuse. Pilot ejects and descends under his own. A disposable manned interceptor, mostly wood and nails, built by semi-skilled workers. The Air Ministry rejected it. Bachem went to Himmler. The SS paid for 150. The Air Ministry, alarmed, ordered 50 more. 36 were built. After Sieber's death, at least 3 more manned flights followed, successfully. 10 combat-ready Natters were erected near Kirchheim in April 1945, waiting for bombers. The bombers never came. Allied tanks did. The crews destroyed their Natters and retreated. Not a single Natter was ever launched in combat. Today, only 2 survive. One at the Smithsonian, one at the Deutsches Museum. A gun that bends bullets, a cannon that fires wind, a wooden glider that dropped a tank through its floor, a rocket plane fueled by chemicals that dissolved flesh, a jet flying wing 70 years ahead of its time, a 180-ton tank named Mouse, and a wooden manned missile that killed its pilot before the war could. They sound like fiction. Every single one was real. Which weapon shocked you the most? Tell us in the comments. Subscribe to X-Military and hit the bell so you never miss our deep dives into military history, weapons technology, and the stories behind them.